Castro's enduring legacy. The spirit of revolution took root in Latin America with Fidel Castro's rise in Cuba. Castro's defiance of the United States resonated deeply across the region. His brand of socialism, promising social justice and economic equality, held immense appeal. Castro's Cuba became a beacon for leftist movements, inspiring a generation of revolutionaries. Venezuela, rich in oil but plagued by inequality, proved fertile ground for Castro's ideology. Hugo Chávez, a charismatic former military officer, emerged from this backdrop. He embraced Castro's legacy, vowing to break free from what he deemed imperialist forces. Chávez's rise marked a turning point, ushering in a new era of leftist resurgence. His victory in the 1998 Venezuelan presidential election sent shockwaves through the region. The shadow of Castro loomed large over this transformation. Chávez's connection to Castro ran deep, solidifying a strategic alliance. Section 2. The Rise of a Strongman, Chávez's Path to Power. Hugo Chávez cultivated a carefully crafted image. He presented himself as a champion of the poor, a man of the people. His fiery rhetoric resonated with the marginalized and dispossessed. Chávez tapped into a deep well of resentment against the ruling elite. His charisma and populist message proved a potent combination. Chávez's rise was no accident. He understood the power of symbolism, of connecting with the masses on an emotional level. Chávez skillfully exploited the media, using it to amplify his message and demonize his opponents. His ascent was swift and strategic. Beneath the veneer of populism lay a more authoritarian nature. Chávez consolidated power, centralizing control over key institutions. He stacked the courts, the electoral council, and the military with loyalists. Critics accused him of transforming Venezuela into an autocracy. Section 3. Silencing Dissent, Chávez's Iron Grip. Maintaining power required silencing dissenting voices. Chávez's government employed a range of tactics to stifle opposition. Independent media outlets faced closure or government takeover. Journalists critical of the regime were harassed, intimidated, and even jailed. Freedom of the press, a cornerstone of democracy, was under siege. Opposition leaders faced similar persecution. Trumped-up charges and politically motivated prosecutions became commonplace. The judiciary, now firmly under Chávez's control, served as an instrument of repression. The space for legitimate dissent shrank dramatically. Fear and intimidation became pervasive tools of control. Self-censorship became the norm, stifling public discourse. Chávez's grip on power tightened, silencing all who dared to challenge his rule. Section 4. Shadows of Collaboration, Guerrillas, Cartels, and Terror. Disturbing allegations emerged linking Chávez's regime to illicit networks. Rumors swirled of connections to Colombian guerrillas, particularly the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, FARC. Evidence pointed to Venezuelan territory being used as a safe haven for FARC operatives. Chávez's government denied any involvement. Further accusations implicated Chávez in the drug trade. Venezuela, strategically located along major drug trafficking routes, became a transit point for cocaine flowing from Colombia to the United States and Europe. The extent of official complicity remains a subject of debate, but the allegations raised serious concerns. Perhaps most troubling were the alleged ties to terrorist organizations. The international community viewed these developments with growing alarm. Section 5. PDVSA and Smartmatic Tools of Control and Influence. Petróleos de Venezuela, or PDVSA, the state-owned oil company, played a pivotal role in Chávez's hold on power. Oil revenues, which flowed through PDVSA, funded his social programs and solidified his popularity. Chávez used PDVSA as a political tool, rewarding allies and punishing opponents. The company became a symbol of his regime. Smartmatic, an electronic voting company, became embroiled in controversy during Chávez's rule. The company, awarded lucrative contracts for Venezuela's elections, faced accusations of vote rigging and manipulation. Concerns about the integrity of the electoral process mounted. Critics argued that these actions undermined democratic institutions and eroded public trust. The implications of Chávez's actions extended beyond Venezuela's borders. Allegations of electoral manipulation cast doubt on the legitimacy of Venezuelan democracy. Section 6. Exporting Revolution, the Bolivarian Alliance and Beyond. Chávez harbored ambitions beyond Venezuela. He envisioned a Latin America united under the banner of 21st-century socialism. To achieve this goal, he formed the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America, or ALBA. This regional bloc aimed to counter U.S. influence and promote leftist ideology. ALBA provided Chávez with a platform to project his vision. He forged alliances with like-minded leaders in countries like Bolivia, Ecuador, and Nicaragua. Through economic aid, energy cooperation, and political support, Chávez sought to expand his sphere of influence. Chávez's efforts to export his revolution were met with mixed success. While he found allies among leftist governments, his approach also faced resistance. Some countries viewed his actions as meddling in their internal affairs. The United States, wary of Chávez's growing influence, actively sought to counter his efforts. Section 7. The Price of Populism. Chávez's legacy in Latin America. Chávez's rule had a profound impact on Venezuela. His populist policies, while initially popular, proved unsustainable in the long run. Government mismanagement, corruption, and declining oil production led to an economic crisis. Venezuela, once a prosperous nation, plunged into poverty and hyperinflation. The social consequences were equally devastating. Basic goods and services became scarce, leading to widespread shortages. Healthcare and education systems, once the envy of the region, crumbled under the weight of economic collapse. Millions of Venezuelans fled their homeland, seeking refuge abroad. Chávez's legacy is a cautionary tale about the perils of unchecked power and the fragility of democracy. The Venezuelan people continue to grapple with the consequences of his actions. Section 8. Echoes of Chávez, the enduring struggle for democracy. The shadow of Hugo Chávez continues to loom large over Latin America. His brand of populist authoritarianism, once confined to Venezuela, has found new adherents in the region. Leaders like Nicolás Maduro in Venezuela and Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua have followed in his footsteps, eroding democratic norms and consolidating power. The rise of these Chávez heirs poses a significant challenge to democracy in Latin America. They exploit the same tactics as their predecessor, silencing dissent, manipulating elections, and undermining the rule of law. The international community must remain vigilant in defending democratic values and holding these regimes accountable. The struggle for democracy in Latin America is far from over. The lessons of the Chávez era must not be forgotten. Nicolás Maduro's influence extends beyond Latin America, with funding operations supporting groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter in the U.S. These funding efforts aim to promote socialism and destabilize democracy, both in the region and globally.